looked up into the sky, feeling the cool drops against my cheeks. It's finally raining. Domin broke into a wide smile and ran his hands through his hair, wet tendrils falling against his brow.
Feels a bit auspicious, don't you think?
A lightness unfurled within me, as if the rain was rinsing away the residue of the grid, leaving behind a buoyant feeling of renewal, and I found myself pulling him close, my arms slipping around his neck. Thank you for everything. The rain dripped from our hair, running trails down our cheeks, and the concentrated look of longing Tobin gave me sent my pulse racing as his hands slowly slid up my back. The sound of the door slamming jolted me from our embrace, and Lilica's excited cry rang out through the trees. Mommy, it's raining! I know, sweetheart, it is. I caught her in my arms as she ran to me, lifting her up and spinning her in a dizzying circle as laughter spilled from my mouth. For a moment, everything else was forgotten. It was just us three in a world surrounded by forests, mountains, and the cleansing shower against our skin, bringing life back to the parched land and washing away all the smoke. We stood outside, the rain soaking our clothes, as we watched Lilica dance among the puddles, an exuberance radiating off her. For the first time, I noticed how much she had come alive since we had been out here. Gone were the furtive glances, the pensive quiet, as if she needed to constantly curl into herself to avoid detection. She was no longer shrinking herself down. She was uninhibited laughter, the rush of wind through trees, the press of new growth bursting through the underbrush. She was open and wild and free. It rained throughout the night, a steady torrent that streamed down the windows and drummed against the roof, enclosing us in the rhythmic sound of water against wood. And when morning came, the rain was gone. In its place were bright beams of sunlight that played with the branches and burst through the trees, filtering into the cabin and teasing us with the promise of a clear blue sky. Lilica bounded through the cabin while I packed some food into a basket for breakfast, soft-boiled eggs and crackers, thick slices of tomatoes still holding the faint warmth of yesterday. Gathering up a blanket, I followed Lilica and Domine out the door, filling my lungs with the reprieve of fresh air as we stepped outside. Finding a patch of sun beside the cabin where the grass was not so wet, I spread out the blanket, watching wisps of steam rise from the ground beside me. Everything was washed in effervescent light, and the sound of Lilica's laughter echoed through the air as she and Domine played hide and seek among the trees, flashes of movement among green and brown. The sun caressed my skin as I sat cross-legged and stared up into the blue of the sky. I had spent my whole life surrounded by artificial trees and concrete, pressed and molded into the framework of a society that had lost all connection to nature. But here, life flourished with a resilience that took hold of me, cradled me, and these past few weeks had been like a slow waking up to a world I never knew I needed until now. A bloom of happiness stirred within, fluttering against my chest like a bird trying out new wings. It was a feeling I had not held in so long, I almost didn't recognize it. Lilica ran up to me and flopped onto the blanket, rosy-cheeked and breathless. I'm hungry, Mommy. I bet you are. I unwrapped the food from the basket, watching as Domine strolled over to us from the tree line.
Your little wood nymph happens to be quite an excellent hider.
He shot her a wink and settled beside me, unclasping a canister of water and taking a long drink. I watched as a trickle of liquid slid down his neck and beat it against the hairs peeking above his shirt line. He had not shaved in a few days, and the stubble that peppered his face made him look even more rugged, accentuating the deep brown of his eyes. His searing gaze met mine, and this time I did not look away, even though my entire body flushed with adrenaline. I wanted him to know I was staring. I wanted him to know how beautiful he was. He could never find me, Mommy. Lilica's voice pulled me from the depths of his eyes, and I turned to ruffle her hair. Wow, you are a good hider. She grinned and stuffed some crackers into her mouth. And I found him every time. He's not a good hider like me. Well, it looks like he could learn a thing or two from you then, I said with a playful smile as I popped a slice of tomato into my mouth. the sweet juice colliding with my tongue. We ate breakfast together in a silent reverence, listening to the sound of the woods come alive with the elated cacophony of birdsong, as if they too were celebrating the return of the sun, the restoration of fresh air. Domin stretched out on his back, resting his head against the fold of his hands, as Lilica ran off to search for treasures hidden beneath the forest floor. "Well, don't go too far, hon," I called after her. "Stay where I can see you." I leaned back onto the blanket with a relaxed sigh and turned to Domin. "You know, I don't think I've ever seen Lilica so happy." He looked at me, sunlight slanting across his skin. "What about you? Are you happy here?" That flutter inside me stirred once more, yearning for the words to make it real, to claim this feeling that uncoiled within. "Yes, I think I am." A smile spread across his face, and he reached his arm out to me. "Come here." I scooted closer and nestled my head in the crook of his shoulder, letting out a sigh as the warmth of him radiated against me, enveloping me in the scent of pine and earth. Laying beside him felt like coming home again, the ache and sweetness of returning to a place that held the soft whisper of long ago memories. "I had a dream the other night." Domain ran his hand lightly down my arm, and a flush of heat raced across my skin. "The three of us were planting a garden right here, right where we're laying." "You never told me you dream." He shrugged and fingered a strand of my hair while his eyes grew heavy and swooped down the curve of my neck, causing my pulse to quicken and my breath to catch in my throat. "I guess it's never come up, but yes, I've been dreaming for a few years now." I rested my head on his chest, feeling the steady thrum of his heartbeat against my ear, the rhythm so familiar. "What does it feel like to dream?" "It's like a memory you can reach out and hold. Sometimes the images stay with me for days. Other times they're fleeting and hard to arrange." I closed my eyes, trying to imagine a world only I could touch, the colors private and tucked away within my mind, awaiting sleep's gentle stirrings. "And what kind of dreams do you have?" "I dream a lot about water and places I've never been but feel familiar." He paused for a moment, and I looked up to see him staring into the arc of the sky. "And sometimes I dream of you." "Really?" His confession reached in and tugged me into the depths of something warm and inviting, and my voice came out breathless. "Maybe we will plant a garden here together." "I hope so." He looked at me, his eyes swimming with unspoken words that sent a surge of electricity through me, and then he leaned in close, a smile playing on his lips. "There's actually something I've been wanting to show you." "What is it?" I asked as he suddenly sat up and took my hand, pulling me to my feet. "You'll see." He led me to where Lilica was crouched beside a log, her hands stained with earth as she turned over loose stones. "Hey, wood nymph, you want to come with us? There's something I want to show you and your mom." With a smile, she jumped up and followed behind him, weaving in between the fallen branches on the forest floor. A few feet ahead, Domain stopped in an open space among the trees, where the brush had been cleared away into piles, and the outline of mountains towered in the distance. He turned to me, his eyes sparkling. "What do you think?" I looked around in confusion. "Well, what do you mean?" "I mean, what do you think about this spot for your cabin?" I stared at him, the tendrils of disbelief curling through me. "You want to build us a cabin?" "I figure if I start now, I should be done by spring." He walked to one of the brush piles and picked up a long stick, dragging the sharp point along the ground until he had drawn a large square in the dirt, roughly the size of a two-bedroom cabin. "This is where you guys come in." With a smile, he handed the stick to Lilica. "Do you want to draw out your bedroom?" Her eyes lit up as she took the stick from him and proceeded to sketch out a corner among invisible wrought walls, her imagination growing detailed as she drew out a bed and a dresser, a box to keep her toys in. Stepping into the middle of the square, I leaned in close to Domine. "You're kicking us out already, huh?" I shot him a playful smile, but beneath my joke lay a twinge of uncertainty. Why was he doing this? "No, Seren." He looked at me, his eyes soft and focused. "I just want to give you both a place to call your own." Bathed in the warmth of his sentiment, I felt the sudden press of tears gather, and for a moment We just stared at one another. I wondered if he was remembering our own tiny apartment on the edge of town, beyond the tall buildings of the grid, the refuge we had made together all those years ago, a private world composed of possibility. I can't believe you're gonna build this house. Believe it. He placed his hands on my shoulders, a slow smile creeping back across his face. And I was thinking right here. He turned me around and splayed his arms out, cupping the view of the mountains between his hands. Would be a great place for the living room, with a big window overlooking the view. And here, he pointed behind me, could be the extra room for your clinic. We've been needing a doctor here for a while now. My clinic, huh? I knew the growing bundles of herbs drying against the cabin window had begun to take up space in the kitchen, and the idea of my own space to freely practice medicine filled me with a sudden rush, like wings beating against my chest. Reaching out, I curled my fingers through his. You're amazing, you know that? I love it. I love all of it. The threads of potential tugged at me, tentative at first and then consuming. I was here with Domine, and although the definitions of us were still delicate and unclear, we were building something together, a home that held the promise of a new beginning. But beneath this bud of hope lay the furtive grip of unease, the restless apprehension that always lay beside me at night, like a dark shadow when my thoughts had nowhere else to hide. What if Trendon finds us? Could we really build a life out here?